On today's show, we have our good friend Chad Morris to talk to us about Eerie, Arkansas, and all the offerings he's going to have this summer for 2 workshops that you want to be a part of. All that and much more up next on the EduTechGuys.
You're listening to the EduTechGuys, EduTechGuys.com. Hello and welcome to the EduTechGuys. I'm David Henderson.
Hey, I'm Jeff Matlock.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, turning it on, downloading, all that good stuff. We've got a very special guest with us today.
Very special guest. And before we bring him on, he's already going to make us. There's going to be a lot of laughing.
A lot of laughing.
If you don't get the jokes, we don't care. Don't listen to the episode. Hey, listen, you can check us on the web at edutechguys.com. We're on all the social medias, the peepers, the poppers, the poopers. You can find us out there. Just look up at EduTechGuys. So, hey, I say we jump into this bad boy. So, Our guest today, he's been on the show before. We're going to talk some more about his Eerie, Arkansas offerings coming up for this summer. So, I'm going to let him take it away. Chad, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do, and let's get into this bad boy.
Chad Morris, freshman starter, right guard. Chad Morris, I'm the GT specialist for Southwest Arkansas and South Central Arkansas. So I cover around 20 different school districts that I help our GT teachers and our GT students make sure that everybody's getting their GT needs. And when, at any moment, I'm from Falk, Arkansas to Junction City. When people ask me where I work, I tell them L.A., Lower Arkansas.
That's right, from L.A.
Yeah.
So we had you on the show before. We talked a little bit about Eerie, Arkansas, and so let's bring up let's let our listeners know about what Eerie, Arkansas is.
So a while back in the I guess it was the BC time before COVID. And
Actually, it was DC during COVID.
During COVID. Was it DC or BC?
It may have been BC.
Well, anyway, we were trying to, our co-op is not only do we support our teachers out there, we provide, summer trainings and things like that. And the emphasis was on Arkansas history. We need to get our teachers back in Arkansas history. And so my bosses and I sat together and we were just kind of like, all right, we need someone really nerdy to come up with a cool Arkansas Chad. Yes, ma'am. And so instead of, because I'm gonna be honest with you, as a classroom teacher, and I actually taught social studies forever. It was you hammering through the year trying to get your standards in, and then you get an email or your principal would stick their head and go, "Don't forget about Arkansas history," and you're like, "Oh." Well, let's see. I've got 3 days left in the school year. What am I going to do here?
Here's a Bowie knife.
So you pulled out the old red and shiny Arkansas history book that's still named Bill Clinton as the governor of Arkansas. And Johnny Cash is a top 10 selling music artist from Arkansas, and the Reverend Al Green also. And you were like, we're going to talk about the regions and Indians, and that's all we're going to talk about. I don't even think the last 100 pages of those books have ever been thumbed through. It's just
I think it refers to desegregation as last month.
Last year, Governor Orville, so I was like, oh, okay, all right. So I just thought, let's do something, a little bit different.
I'll scare the crap out of these kids.
And so I just kind of thought of, I like, I'm not as much as I like to be scared. I mean, I know people that are like that. I'm more of, I just like a really good story.
Yeah.
And, if it's a great story, I'm hooked. I love talking to my elders, my grandparents, when they would talk, I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, give me more.
Yeah.
I had one of those grandfathers that if you pulled peanut butter out of the cupboard, he was like, well, this was first invented down in South Carolina and by a company name, and he knew the backstory of every company. But for some reason, that kind of fascinated me. But Arkansas is unique in the legends, in the mysteries that are just packed full here in this state. And one thing I really wanted to do with our kids was I need our kids in my classroom to realize that there's more to life other than outside the boundaries of where you live. I needed them to give a broad perspective of what life is and what the world looks like. The world's not flat, people. And so
So you say.
Well, there went half of our listeners.
That's not what those flying Germans from that hole in the
Sorry about that, but at least there's no dragon at the edge eating the boats as they flop off there. But I just thought, man, one of the cool things that I really got into as a learner of Arkansas history was all the different myths and mysteries surrounding our state. And one of the cool things is in every region of the state, regions is a standard that we cover in Arkansas history. So we're, kind of legends and folklores and the different industries in those sections. I was like, man, you can really bring in some of these mysteries and legends and talk about them. But one of the cool things that I've come up with in the last couple of years of doing Eerie, Arkansas was the idea of getting kids to learn how to share their opinions, respect opinions, and also to learn how to, learn the process of deductive reasoning. And so we came up with this idea of, all right, here's the mysteries, here's the legends. Let's talk about the history of them. Let's talk about the geography where each of these happen. And let's talk about the theories behind each one. I had the great privilege of going to Marville, Arkansas a couple of weeks ago. And I got the teachers invited me in their classrooms to teach their 7th graders, their 8th graders, their 10th graders, 11th and 12th graders. And I decided, all right, we're gonna talk about one of our big ones, the Garden Light. And man, I mean, they were just like, it was so cool how they jumped into already trying to deduct. Let's see what this is. Let's hear all the theories. I had a young lady that missed a doctor's appointment the next day because she wanted to come back to school the next day to find out what was the theory I thought. And I was like, oh no, please go to the doctor. But it was really neat. And we have a pretty big sign up every summer. So this would be my 4th one that I'm doing this year. And so we're excited about it. It's going to be a good one. And I think this year's is probably one of the most interesting than the others, I would say.
So, as you've talked about like Garden Light, and I know from working with you in the past, you've done other myths and legends in Arkansas, Falk Monster, Legend of Bottom, that one.
Boggy Creek.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. My tongue fell out of my head there.
Bottom Girls, that's the song.
Fat Bottom Girls. No, that's a cupcake place. Anyway, so I'm going to jump forward some here. What does Eerie, Arkansas? You're now up to the 4th iteration of this. So, what else is left to talk about?
Oh, we've got plenty to talk about. But I kind of did a retread on this summer's. My first year that we did it, we talked about the Garden Light, and then we brought in the Falk Monster. Because I just thought those were the most, not just well-known in our state, but nationally known events. And when you start looking into it, you're like, well, these were the most world known. I mean, there are people that come all over the world. So I thought this year, let's focus on just the ghost lights of Arkansas. So this year we're doing Eerie, Arkansas 4, the ghost lights of Arkansas, where we will start off with Eerie, Arkansas. Where we'll start off with the Garden Light, and then we're going to talk about, Garden's not the only place that this happens here in Arkansas. Fortunately, we have like 3 other events of this mysterious lights that just pop up above ground. And it was really those kids in Marvell that I worked with that kind of had me thinking, yeah, this is kind of cool. So let's just focus on the Eerie lights of Arkansas, the ghost lights of Arkansas, because there are plenty. Mm-hmm. Of course, we have Garden, we have There's the Dover lights. There's the Crosset light. And one of the more recent ones that I get a bunch of emails back. And when we did that first one, we kept having teachers email and go, what about the Amy light in Camden? Which is more of a locally known one, but there's a little bit of, I'm still finding information on that. So it's pretty cool.
One of the things that I really like about your approach to the Eerie Arkansas series in general is that we like to laugh and have fun, and it's ghost stories, and which is, yes, that's part of the myths and legends of any kind of eerie type thing. You're going to have quote ghost stories, but one of the things that I like most is that you tie whatever the myth, legend, in this case, you're talking about the ghost lights of Arkansas, they all tie back to, yes, sure, there's the ghost stories that surround, kind of that myth, but what are some logical, scientific possible explanation for these lights? And I think that's one of those things that really stops and makes teachers and especially students stop and think and go, well, okay, I really hadn't thought of it from that direction before. We've always heard, it was, the dude with the head cut off looking for his head.
He's real. It's ruining it for me with this scientific stuff.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that, if you would.
So one of the cool things, I've talked about going to my kids in Marvell, but we also have done it with loads and loads. I think the last time we counted, it was up to about 240 just this year that I zoomed in and did a lesson on this with just the Garden Light. Just this past year with classrooms all across our part of the state here. And that was my thing. Here are the theories that are out there. And I want you to decide using evidence-based research of what is it, and you bring in not only literature, not only social studies, but man, when you start talking about the mysterious lights, it's just the outpour of science that your kids get in. There, of course, the main two theories, and I always start off with let's put aside the ghost aspect of this, because I hate standing in front of second graders and going, ghosts are real and they're coming to get you. Let's put that aside and let's find a logical, natural explanation for why this is happening. Because I myself, I can hear, I saw the Falk monster in 1973. He was on a moped driving an easy one. And I'm like, okay, that's someone's hearsay. But when I was in college at Henderson, we had one friend back in the late 80s and early 90s that had sense enough to bring their NES system. That's an old Nintendo system for those of you that don't know what that is. And after a while, after we leveled out in Akari Warriors, what are we going to do now? So let's walk down the Garden Light. And we actually witnessed it on several occasions. So me personally, I'm like, what is this thing? And so when you start looking into what's the science behind this, teachable moments are things as teachers and educators we just don't let go by. We as coaches don't let those go by. And so, we always hear that the best way to start off a lesson is you need a good hook. Well, the mystery or the ghost aspect of it is the hook. Once you're getting into the science, that's where we're going to start learning. So one of the theories is, one of the ones that I put a lot of weight into is the idea of piezoluminescence, where Arkansas has the New Madrid Fault that runs kind of close to the I-30 corridor there, just moves right up, and it's named that because the largest earthquake to ever happen in the United States was actually right across the Arkansas border to Missouri in New Madrid, Missouri. It was pre-Civil War, and so we know from people's journals and aspects of how big this earthquake was. It stopped the Mississippi River from flowing one way, and it started flowing the other way for a couple of days. So we know we have a lot of tectonic activity. Boom, there's a word that we could pull in with our kids, plate tectonics, fault lines, and all this.
Well, you could start with the piezo-luminescence.
Yeah, there you go.
That right there's a 3-day lesson.
But that theory, the whole theory on piezo-luminescence is, underneath our feet, the ground is moving. We have a huge quartz deposit here in Arkansas. We actually have an area of the state called the quartz belt that, for some reason, all these different areas where these mysterious lights are kind of around this area where the belt happens.
One thing, we have the only diamond mine in the United States.
That's true, right there. It's it was once a volcano, and that's what is forming these diamonds. So there's this theory that when these crystals start moving, that it's almost like sparks that you see above ground, because it's going to manifest above ground. And at first, when you hear it, you're just kind of like, yeah, that's silly. But you start reading some of these people's journals of one of the things that when there's an earthquake happening, they see mysterious lights. They have mysterious smells, which is probably sulfur being related. And we're unique here in Arkansas that we have that big a quartz deposit. We have this fault line running through our state, and if you look at the towns and their placements that have these mysterious lights coming up, it really starts waving a flag that, hey, this is something you need to start looking at. This could be a possible explanation for it. The other theory that is out there is what we call swamp gas, but scientifically we call it will-o'-the-wisp, which is in a wooded area. When things die and decompose, they release gases, and sometimes when you have moonlight shine through those gases in the air, you kind of you see lights. So, and it's a scientifically proven theory. Could be. Could be. My job is to lay out the information for the kids, and then they all talk about what they thought they could relate to. And very seldomly do I have a kid that sends me their paper or their email and their theory that they're like, oh, it's a ghost. Matter of fact, the majority of them come up with things that I've never thought of before. So these sessions you're going to present for the teachers for the summer, does that allow them to prep their classes before you come, or does that allow them to just use it in their lessons? Yeah, it's here's the information. Here's what you need to talk about with your kids. Here's what you can do with the information. Because I'm the world's worst about attending workshops. I'm kind of a hypocrite when it comes to this.
Come to mine, because I ain't going to yours.
I give sessions all the time, but sitting through one, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
My first question is, when are we breaking for lunch?
Yeah,
they give us information all the time, but I really like to know concrete things. How am I going to put this in my classroom? What can you give me that I can plug into the learning that I'm already doing? So this is kind of what we do with that. That's really cool.
Well, you've been doing a bunch of these, so like you're up to 4, but what people out there listening are not going to understand without any kind of context is that even though, yes, there's been 4 iterations of this, this has been years going on. And, at one point, especially when we were, Zooming everything during the pandemic, you were doing, good gravy, dozens of sessions with, like 300 people at a whack. This is big. So my question is, when are the books coming out?
Well, when I have time to sit down and breathe. That's a good idea, though.
Yeah, I think some books and some workbooks, for the kids to work through with, hey, this is write your ideas here, and where's your scientific hypothesis.
Yeah, I think it could be one of those, like we've seen with other books where, they've got the book of the information and the material. It's not necessarily geared toward education at all. It's just Eerie, Arkansas, and talk about those. But then you have the teacher's guide and you have the student's guide that goes with it. You got to think bigger than just the book.
I think of myself as a lot of things, but an author, not one of them.
Yeah, I'd have to learn to spell and do grammar. Yeah, I have a lot of sense without periods in it. So
yeah. But hey, you're not the first person that's asked on that, and I've been like, that's not a bad idea. finding the time to do it.
Sure.
would be
Yeah,
a
that's
different
where
thing
the big kicker. Okay, so give us the titles again for the listeners for the sessions and where they can go if they want to sign up for these sessions.
So the cool thing about this is it's going to be Eerie Arkansas 4, the Ghost Lights of Arkansas. For my teachers out there, just go to your ESC Works. You can either find them on the Southwest Arkansas calendar or the South Central calendar. They are all virtual, so anyone around the state, and we have had people join before that weren't educators. We had a guy 2 years ago that was like, I sell insurance. My wife was just talking about this, so I wanted to get on it too. And I was like, sure, man. Hey, that's what the co-op's for, man.
So are you guys going to stream this in case somebody from they listen to this podcast? We think they do across the United States. If somebody wanted to come in,
all you have to do is
sign up
on the calendar through ESC Works. If not, contact me. You can find my information on our Southwest website and our South Central website, swaec.org or sesc.org too. And just look for Chad Morrison or Gifted and Talented, and then you'll see my website and all my contact information. And you can actually email or message through our websites on that, and I'll get you set up. So we Zoom these, so they're not face-to-face.
Okay.
So these are all Zoomed. They last a couple of hours. The first one's on the 16th of June, and then the second one's on the 7th of July. And so they're both the same session, so it's not a continuation of the other. So if you can't make one, make the other.
There you go.
There you go.
Cool, man.
We have a good time, though. We learned some useful stuff to put in the classroom, but I'm running out of mysteries. We need to.
You might have to expand to the Eerie Arklatex.
Yeah, we might have to just start getting out there and staging our own. The giant chicken of Falk, Arkansas.
The slug of stamps. The monster slug of stamps.
The ghost watermelon of Hope, Arkansas. Just
tiny feet. The borrowers live under my floorboard. Hey, Chad, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Anytime, man.
Yeah, and hey, if you like to find out more, don't forget to visit the website swaec.org or sesc.org, and you can find out more how to sign up, find out about Chad, read his bio, listen to the Tektronix music. I love their a cappella stuff. Lots of stuff you can do out there.
So one thing that we've talked about is doing Eerie Arkansas sessions on the podcast.
Yeah.
Where we will just take one of these mysteries and do a show on it. So look for that. Check out the EduTech's website on that to find more information on that. That ought to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we look forward to that.
Hey, it's been a great show. I'm Jeff Madlock.
I'm David Henderson.
We'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to the EduTech Guys, edutechguys.com.